After 40, you can grind all day and still stay broke because wealth isn't built on effort, it's built on leverage. And the most underrated form of leverage after 40 isn't a side hustle and it isn't an investment. It's doubling down on what you're naturally good at. When you bet on your strengths, you gain 3 advantages to getting rich. Now stick around until the end of the video and I'll show you why these advantages matter more in your 40s than any other time. But for now, let's dive into the first one, why improving faster puts more money in your pocket. The thing is, and you might not like this, but the matter doesn't care about your potential. It only cares about results. You don't get paid to get good, you get paid to be good. Like you don't get paid more to get good at Excel or to eventually become a good manager. No, you get paid to provide a report on the VP's desk that drives the business forward. Revenue, clients, clicks, that's all that matters. So if you only get paid to be good, then the faster you get good, the faster you get paid. And to improve faster, people tend to pick one of 2 ways. Random effort, so working hard on stuff that doesn't matter that much, or leveraged effort, focusing on things you're naturally good at. The first way, you just end up spinning your wheels, and the second way really pays off. Because you're already good at it, there's less friction and more momentum. And the compounding effect makes you more valuable in less time. Let's say you're a financial analyst that's particularly good at presenting complex data. You could spend months trying to learn a new software that maybe you barely even use. Lots of friction, slow progress. Or you could focus on your strengths, working even harder to design insightful presentations that clients and executives actually make decisions from. Both skills are valuable. The difference is how quickly you can turn them into results. If you take the first route, it'll take a long time to be average. If you take the second route, you'll be exceptional fast and your value at the company will multiply. Way back when I was living in London, one of my best friends wanted to be a stockbroker, but he wasn't wired for it. He was way too emotional. His family had a property business and he had a lot of talent for that, but he spent all his time, energy and money on trading. But anyway, after a while, after getting wiped out so many times, he eventually gave up, focused his attention on the property business and started to build it. When he went with the flow, used what he was good at, the results came much faster. He used up much less energy and he hit his financial goals much faster than he thought. Talent really is a shortcut to wealth, but only if you double down on it. But what's interesting is that speed isn't even nearly the biggest advantage. Scarcity is. Scarcity is what drives all value in all markets. And it's the same in the labor market. Now, the harsh truth here is that most people get paid roughly the same because they provide roughly the same value. They all spend years fixing their weaknesses to become well-rounded. So they're competent at everything, but exceptional at nothing. Everyone in the office contributes. They all finish their tasks. They all perform okay. But nobody's the person in the office that the company can't afford to lose. And that would be fine, except that when everyone can do your job reasonably well, you're replaceable. And when you're replaceable, you have no leverage. Like if 10 people can do your job, then the market determines your value, not you. And after 40, that's particularly dangerous because now you're not just competing in skills, you're competing on cost. Average employees with higher salary expectations are expensive and so are easy to replace. If 2 employees can do the job equally well, but one costs twice as much as the other, the math is simple. But you can flip it because instead of trying to fix your weaknesses, you can double down what you already do better than anyone else. And the cool thing here is that when you invest in your strengths, improvements compound asymmetrically. You don't just get a little better from the effort, you pull away entirely. And at the beginning, that difference looks small, right? It doesn't look that great. But very quickly, it compounds fast, the gap widens to the point that you're not just better or not just a little better, but you're in a different class altogether. And this separation changes everything because when you're clearly better at high value tasks, whether it be negotiations, sales, management, operations, whatever it is, you stop blending in. You start being known for something. Reputation forms around strengths, not balance. And reputation is economic leverage because markets don't reward small differences evenly. The top 10% get 2, 3, 4, 5 times the opportunities than everyone else. Think about it, because it's logical. The market doesn't reward well-roundedness. It rewards rare value. Scarcity drives price in every market. Stocks, housing, commodities, whatever it is. And it's no different in the labor market. Nobody pays a premium for something they can get anywhere. And when your expertise becomes rare and tied to meaningful results, then you increase your bargaining power. It's basic supply and demand. You stop selling your time and you start selling specialized value. So instead of the question being, what can I get? The question becomes, what will it take to keep me here? That's transformative. When you double down on your natural talents, you become scarce. And as a basic rule of economics, money follows scarcity. Speed and differentiation give you an edge, no question. But so many people underestimate how much value comes from just outlasting everyone else. And when you're over 40, this is particularly true. It's simple. The more your natural skills are valued, the easier it is for you to keep going. Staying committed is hard, but only when you're forcing it. When you're fighting against how you go about doing things and who you are. That's what happens when your natural strengths don't match your work. People in that position burn out faster, second guess themselves more, and eventually quit. And that's a problem because when you change or quit, you reset your value every time. But when your skills are actually aligned with the work you do and people notice that and they value that, that changes a lot of things. Work then feels easier and more natural. You remove friction and then you start to have momentum. And so you stick with it when others don't, and that builds longevity. And that's what unlocks the real value. The thing is, improvement isn't a short process, it's a long one. And when you're over 40, you sort of inherently know that. So the biggest advantage only appears when someone works in the same thing long enough for those small advantages to accumulate. And so when you focus on a set of high valued skills, then work doesn't become repetitive, it becomes iterative. Each year builds on the previous one. You start to recognize patterns and make better decisions and, stop doing the things that slow other people down. And over time then, those small advantages accumulate. And then they create a gap and makes it very difficult for anyone else to catch up. For example, I started out in financial sales, right? And it's a tough job. But I realized very quickly that most people struggle with the parts of the job that I found kind of easy. Like talking to clients, guiding them through decisions, closing deals. It sort of came more naturally to me. So I stuck with it when others quit or burnt out. And obviously in the end, I got to have more sales calls and have more deals go through. And then another thing happened, which I was able to start to recognize patterns, right? I could see what were the common objections, what did clients like or dislike, what were the things that made deals turn. And in the end, it was no mystery why I outsold everyone else. The cool thing is that when you do what I did, when you consistently perform well in a thing that you're good at, people notice and they start to sort of align your name with that strength. Colleagues remember you, clients trust you. After all, reputation is just a record of your past results, and the longer the record is, the more convincing it becomes. But more importantly, the more valuable you become, because reputation compounds your uniqueness, so you become even more scarce and more valuable. This is why longevity matters so much, because most people reset their progress repeatedly. They change fields, they abandon skills, they spread themselves too thin, and each reset erases the compounding effect of time. But when someone focuses on what they're good at, they outlast everyone else. They gain longevity when others don't, and the effects become exponential. There's actually research behind this. Studies on strength-based development show that when people focus on their natural talents, they persist longer and perform better over time. Kids raised in environments that develop their strengths show higher well-being and motivation. Students who use their strengths are less likely to drop out. And maybe more importantly, businesses that build around people's strengths see higher productivity and higher revenue. The pattern is very clear, because when you work at what you're good at, you just stay with it longer. And because you stay with it longer, those advantages have more time to compound. And that compounding creates a greater gap between you and everyone else. So the question is, why does this become more valuable when you turn 40? Well, here's why. So by 40, you have 20 plus years of experience. So you naturally already know what you're good at. You know what parts of the work come easy to you. You know what drains you and motivates you. You know where you consistently outperform. The problem isn't that you don't have the information. The problem is that you ignore it. Instead of doubling down on the small number of things that you do exceptionally well, you keep doing random low-value work that you're average at. So from today, your new career goal shouldn't be to discover your strengths. It should be to concentrate your efforts in them. That's where the experience comes in. That's the advantage of being 40 plus. That's where the value is. And another thing is that a 45-year-old applying a new skill gets paid more for it for the same improvement, because it sits on top of experience. It sits on top of credibility, network, reputation. The same skill improvement creates more leverage. Another thing is that after 40, one of the biggest mistakes is that people spread themselves too thinly across too many different things. Natural strengths solve that problem because they act as a filter. You now get to focus on a small number of things. This makes you faster, makes your output easier, results are bigger. The concentration is where the leverage comes from. It's like a magnifying glass in the sun, right? When the sun shines on everything, nothing heats up. But when you shine the sun through the glass, it ignites that one thing. It's also worth noting that most people this age, and if you look around, you'll notice this, they're already burning out. They're already sick and tired of their careers because they have jobs that not only don't focus on their strengths, but actually make them focus on their weaknesses. So if you sort of registered your natural skills, your natural talents, right? And then you put them to use, then you will find your work much easier. Again, results will come faster. Output will be larger. And maybe more importantly, you'll have much more motivation for what you do. And like this, with 20 years work experience in the bank, you could outlast someone else very easy and gain a lot of opportunities they can't. Like when you're over 40, there really is that choice to either sort of be burnt down and lose motivation, or to turn your decades of experience into leverage. That's the choice, and it's clear which one is more valuable. So look, the message in this video isn't work hard to get rich. It's use leverage to get rich. In fact, I would argue that you won't get rich unless you do. So stop wasting energy on the parts of the work you're average in, and instead start concentrating on the small number of things that you're particularly good at. And if you do that consistently over a little bit of time, you'll gain an edge and you'll create wealth.